With the new Superman officially kicking off the new DCU, I thought it would only be right to finally talk about the last live-action Superman movie I've yet to address. Let's open up Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. Here's a little background before we get into the film proper. It has been well documented that Donner left the second movie 3/4 way through production, with this version containing newly restored scenes, alternate takes, and even test footage to complete the film close to what he envisioned. It is very much in line with the director's cut of Justice League 8 years later. Take a work the director left the production of, then complete years later after much demand from fans, even more De Niro from Warner Brothers and DC. So, let's get this started. The film opens parallel to the events end of the first, but with a twist. This time, the XK-101 rocket Superman sends to space frees Zod, not on Earth from the Phantom Zone. Doesn't matter how old I get, I have never gotten tired of that theme music. This version also puts much greater focus on Lois trying to link Clark to Superman, including some close calls involving a vegetable stand near the beginning. Classic. I also have an appreciation for adaptation to use this dynamic for them. Especially love how the My Adventure Superman cartoon remixed the storyline. Of course, Perry loves the front page story they got, and Clark and Lois are still sent to investigate a honeymoon getaway scheme in Niagara Falls while posing as newlyweds. Elsewhere, Lex is making plans to find Superman and bust out of prison, and as I continue, I'll keep track of the similarities and differences between the two cuts as I go. The prison break still happens via a hot air balloon, and Otis is still left behind. As the Phantom Zones make their way to Earth, I really honestly like how the visual presentation is kept consistent with how the film would have appeared if it was a version that saw release in 1980. Even we work the color grading for their encounter with the astronauts and make it look more like it took place in space. Though the Houston I associate with space in Texas, the one they end up in is in Idaho, apparently. Back with Lex and Miss Tessmacher, they track Clark's signal to the Fortress of Solitude at the North Pole. Another notable inclusion is Jor-El, as Marlon Brando didn't want to reprise his role without Donner at the helm, not even allowing the new director to have his likeness, which his estate is quite protective of. Here, his essence plays a much greater role in the conflict his son has with his heroic self and his human identity. Though the film is more tonally consistent with the first movie, being a more serious take on the story for the hero, some bits of camp are kept. Apparently, this variant of Lex Luthor is a big Liberace fan, and Fortress of Solitude has a toilet, much to the relief of Miss Tessmacher. Back in Niagara Falls, Lois starts putting the pieces together while cleaning Clark's glasses, especially after a kid falls off the rails at the falls. Superman naturally saves him, which adds to Lois' suspicions. See? Kids are doing dumb things in front of world wonders before TikTok existed. Later that night, Lois starts pressing Clark for answers, even holding him at gunpoint. Even though it only had blanks inside, Clark ultimately replies like this: "Now that you know, it's time you knew it all." That is another recurring story concept I really like. As Superman takes Lois to Fortress of Solitude, the Phantom Zoners make their way into town, and the jokier bits from the stretch have been largely cut. That helps Zod and his followers work a lot better as threats, along with the alternate takes when Zod decides to confront the president. The Phantom Zoners rampage targets Mount Rushmore in the intro cut, when this cut had them target the Washington Monument. Good thing they hadn't made the Clinton Monument just yet. Of her ultimately getting a dosage of the red sun of Krypton to live as a human that cost her his powers. Also admittedly like Lois wearing an extra super suit top as a nightshirt, much like millions of people around the world. The altercation at the truck stop diner does still have a devastating effect, as does the president asking for Superman's help as he kneels before Zod. As Clark prepares to undo his mistake, Lex makes a deal with the Phantom Zoners over their common enemy, in exchange for the continent of Australia. Especially like the scene of Clark reconciling with Jor-El one last time, which is unique to this version. Even Super Rabbit, the finale of the Looney Tunes show, made it canon to their take on the story. The final act begins with Metropolis as a backdrop, and still quite spectacular show after all these years. All the product placements for KFC and Coca-Cola are neat backdrop of this fight, how all the logos are. There's also the shots of World Trade Center, which makes this among the many appearances that's quite wistful in older films set in New York City or stand-ins for New York City. Never forget. As Superman makes a tactical retreat, Earth decides to take Lois as a bargaining chip. No crazy straw weapon this time. And Lex agrees to lead them to the Fortress of Solitude in exchange for more land. This time for Cuba. Here they have good cigars. Not that I or the filmmakers encourage tobacco use. The final fight in Fortress of Solitude has way less ADR for Lex, and no using Krypton's symbol of hope as a giant plastic net. There is more direct contact. And with all the advances of CG in my lifetime, I still have affection for actors/stunt doubles in suits waiting on each other. Clark still tricks the Phantom Zoners into getting nerfed by the red sun rays, so even Lois gets in a parting shot. Lex is then sent back to jail. When he gets out, depends on which timeline you're following. I mean, it could be in 7 years, or it could be in 26 years. Clark buries the fortress with his heat vision, even though he and Lois do love each other. The danger she faces from knowing his secret is too great. The film closed on Clark turning back time once again to the Chasing Rockets music from before, unlike him retaining memory of what happened, and with the world at peace once more, he even gets back at the trucker from before with a takeout order into one of the diner's pinball machines. Of course, he still pays them while saying words to the effect of "sorry about the mess" like Han Solo, and flies off into the rising sun once again. Much like the directors and final cuts of Blade Runner, my first scripted review in fact, this edit is a great movie made even better. If you have seen Superman 2 before, this is a definitive version. If you haven't, this is the one I recommend watching. And it is the ideal way to get ready for this new take on the Man of Steel, and 115 minutes of one of DC's best films on its own. Whatever happens with the next Superman, I will be there for it. My final rating is 4 out of 4. That will be all for now. I'll see you all again soon. Take care.